Hello, I'm Jeremy Rivera, your unscripted podcast host. I'm here with Ben Sinescu, who's going to introduce himself as a solopreneur, founder of Open SEO, an open source SEO platform. Tell us why we should trust you as a builder in the SEO and marketing space.
Yeah, so I'm actually fairly new to SEO. Before I started working on Open SEO, I was building other open source projects and I wanted to start doing SEO for them. And I was doing research, I was looking into the tools, and they were all pretty complicated and bloated and too expensive for me as like a solopreneur. Um, so I started doing some research online if there were any alternatives. And I found out that lots of people were like vibe coding their own dashboards around this API called Data for SEO. So I asked them, I was like, hey, would you guys like it if there was like an open source project that you could start from for building your dashboards? So I posted in, I think, r/tech SEO. And a bunch of people were like, yeah, this would be something we'd want. So I spent, a week building like the first vibe coded version of Open SEO, and I posted it and everyone was like, this is awesome. Like, this is totally what we need. Um, and then I've been working on it ever since, taking it from like a vibe coded, kind of experiment to now I think it's like a really robust piece of software that people are finding really, really helpful. And I think it being made, so I started working on it in February, and it being made post kind of Claude Code becoming really good has really shaped how I've thought about building the product.
Yeah.
And so it's very AI native. Like I mostly just use it through the AI through Claude, even though there's like a really good UI too. So, so I'm becoming an intermediate SEO now after talking to all the customers and getting all the feedback and getting feature requests. But it's really exciting times with Claude Code and SEO.
Clear up a misconception for me. Open source doesn't mean free, right?
No, so Open SEO is not free. You need either a Data for SEO API key or to pay us $10 a month, and then you can use us through the platform. And the reason this is because the biggest gotcha when I'm like, it's an open source SEO tool is professional SEOs are like, but what about the data? Because everyone knows the data is really expensive. So that data costs money, which is how we make money is we charge a little fee on top of the data you use. But it's going to be like significantly cheaper than if you're using it through SEMrush or Ahrefs. So most of our customers never go past the $10 a month. But if you're an agency with 100 clients and you're spending $1,000 a month on software, you might be able to get away with spending $50 a month on Open SEO because we let you have unlimited projects and you just pay for what you use.
I think that's a great return shot. I come from a background in SEO SaaS. I worked with Raven Tools originally. They brought me out of homes.com and brought me to Tennessee, and they were, aside from Moz, at that time in 2010, 2008 era, they were one of the best well-known SaaS tools in the space. Beside from Moz, Ahrefs wasn't even a thought that had been had yet. But there has always kind of been this challenge, this $100, $99 a month level for SaaS tools in the SEO space. With SEMrush entering, with Moz, and with Raven Tools, they were able to build something and get enough of a following that anybody that was an indie SaaS creator working in the side space, we had to, if we made anything, it was always held up. Oh, well, is that already in SEMrush or Ahrefs was the first question. And then the second question was, okay, well, do I need to pay for this on top of SEMrush, or does it do enough, where you can get away with it? So there's kind of been this pressure point for, signups. And it's gotten worse over time because, SEMrush went public, they got investors. Ahrefs kudos, hats off to Patrick Stocks, hats off to their team for continuing to develop and expand. But it's they haven't increased their price point too much from $99 as their baseline. So it's created this pressure cooker situation where there's so many tools and solutions that have kind of died in the crib, because you can't reach that. If you try to pass $99 in the price point, as a SaaS, you kind of then get immediately compared to SEMrush. And if you don't have their full crazy suite of all the stuff that they've done, you're not going to make it. So everybody has to play small or go to enterprise. So I really appreciate the opportunity to leverage the open source moment. For those that aren't more familiar with the workflow or process around it, what exactly does that mean in terms of development? Does that mean, on a Tuesday, I can just come in and say, oh, the backlinks should all say, they should get rid of DR because I don't believe in it? Or is there a more official process? Like, how does that collaborative nature work?
Yeah. Remind me to come back to that, but I just want to address something you were saying in the beginning about the $99 price point.
Yeah, go ahead.
Um, I think what's really interesting. So when I initially posted in that Reddit forum, it was a lot of like professional SEOs that were like, yeah, we want an open source um, alternative because we want to be able to customize our own tools.
Yeah.
Um, but what I found is a lot of the people that are like paying for the hosted solution of Open SEO aren't professional SEOs. Um, so they aren't comparing against SEMrush because they've never used
Heard of
SEMrush
it.
before because
Right.
it's just was totally inaccessible to them at that price point. But
Mm.
not only at the price point, but also it's
The
really hard to do
complexity.
SEO. It's really hard
Yeah.
to do SEO. Like it took lots of time. You need to like spend like 10, 20 hours a week doing it. But now these people are able to start dipping their toes into SEO with Claude. So like an affordable SEO tool didn't make any sense because you were going to spend so much time doing it anyway. But now I think it makes a little bit more sense. But onto your point about open source. Um, yeah. So what's cool about it is the code is like totally available for anyone to use. So
Mhm.
you can pull our code down and then open it in a folder with Claude and then say, add me this feature. And Claude will just add you whatever feature you want or change anything that you want about the app. Or if you want to bring in some integration that we don't support, you can just have Claude build it for you on your own computer and then it can work just exactly how you want. Um, so you could do that all from scratch, but I mean, I've spent 5 months trying to make it so that this works, really well. And but my background's as a software engineer, so there's lots of things with like design patterns and making sure that, you add one feature, you do it well, and then the next feature is a lot easier to add.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, from the open source angle, it's pretty community driven. We have I think 50 issues open right now of people requesting different features or bug fixes. So it's really easy for people to kind of contribute and fix paper cuts.
Mhm.
But then some things like someone put up this awesome PR, and maybe I'll give it to you in the show notes, where he added a whole content optimization page to Open SEO. And it's not something we necessarily want to add into the main product right now,
Yeah.
but that's something that, he was able to post it and share it online. It got pretty good engagement. So it's just kind of a cool community driven thing.
It's it is uh it does seem a moment, and it's funny because um even a few months ago for me, before I interviewed, Mason McCumber, he took time afterwards to move me off of Claude on the website and suggested I move to Claude desktop in one interview, and then actually got me into terminal and Claude code. And it's just kind of this crazy level of unlock in my mind of the capability. It's as Adrian Nikolov, who I interviewed, he said, this is our moment where SEO goes on steroids. the way that it should have been all along. Because as a longtime SEO, I can tell you that there were times where we didn't have access to good tools. We had basic access to the UI UX that you wanted, and it gave you what you gave, and everything else was copying and pasting in Google Drive and
Mm-hmm.
spreadsheets and more spreadsheets. Google Docs, Google Drive, spreadsheets, copy paste, and then WordPress. Or you had to log in, go to the page, open it up. It would take 10 minutes just to go and edit a meta title, which you had to, download a WordPress plugin to be even able. You had to get Yoast, and you had to know what Yoast was. And there's all these things where now it's like, oh, hey Claude, here's the REST access for WordPress. Here's the application password. Can you add a meta title to this page following these rules? Let's make a skill for it. Okay. And then it'll do it. And then you check and you're like, that's better than I could have wrote it. But it's also, there's downsides and there's temptations as you get access to all of this power. What are some of the hard lessons, the crash outs, the crash and burns? Like, yesterday I accidentally crashed my little SaaS by asking Claude Code to build me something and I wasn't paying attention and it was down. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know that I could kill it that way, but noted. So what are some of the hard lessons you've learned along the way?
Yeah. I mean, resisting the temptation to just like release things is certainly real. I mean, so yesterday I just posted kind of an update in the community. Um, so traditionally in open source projects, one of the ways the community contributed was they would like implement features for you or fix bugs, and then you would review the code and then you'd merge it into the project. But open SEO over the last like month in particular has gotten a lot of kind of people paying attention to it and excited about it. So there are like 60 PRs open right now from random people. So I had to like just declare bankruptcy on addressing those where like I'm sure most of the PRs are really good, but I can't just like add 100 things to the app all at once because I'm certain even if only one of them breaks, it's like, how do you track that all down?
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, and then like I could probably implement every feature in SEMrush almost in like 3 weeks with Claude Code, but it would be like they'd all be so slightly broken
Yeah.
that it would just be impossible to fix. So uh, resisting that temptation is certainly real. I don't know if I have any specific examples of it, but um, yeah, I think that's like the biggest thing in the AI era is figuring out like I can do anything. What's the one thing I should do?
As a business owner, is this your first like official like venture, or do you have like a handful of previous projects, or was your previous work at a particular company? Dig a little bit into that software development background and some of the projects that you've worked on previously.
Yeah. So in college, I've always wanted to like have my own company. In college, I started uh, a Patreon for musicians. So we worked on that for 2 years, which is a really good experience. We were able to get like 10 artists kind of using it, and then we had to shut it down, but it was a great experience. And then I worked at this company called Klaviyo, which is like one of the biggest email marketing companies for Shopify stores in particular. And I learned a ton there. That was an awesome place to work. Yeah, because there were just so many smart people there to learn from. And then after that, I moved to another startup in the e-commerce space where I was the first like employee. So that was a really good kind of like trial run as a founder. Where what we did was the the company's called Patrol, and basically the same rules that apply to like restaurants to have ramps for like people in wheelchairs applies to people using the internet that are like deaf. So all the labels or all the images and links all need to be labeled properly. It's like called accessibility, and we kind of wrote like a coding agent to fix all of their accessibility violations in Shopify. So it's kind of funny doing the site audit. Someone just raised an issue with our site audit for Shopify stores. That was an issue that we dealt with at Patrol, which made me laugh yesterday. Because it like it'll render two H1 tags, and then when it renders in the browser, it deletes one. So we were flagging it as a violation, even though it's not like technically one.
That makes
Um,
sense.
yeah. So yeah, pretty extensive software engineering experience, new to SEO.
Where do you think things are going, as a relative newcomer into it and, getting your hands dirty and moving pieces around? What's the shape of things for you as you're, coming into this game here? You've got, AI, cross traffic as a new traffic source. You've got AI overviews. What does it look like coming into it right now? I'm just curious as a so as an old dirty dog who's been doing this too long, like what's it like stepping into this world?
Yeah, it's really crazy. There is just so many takes online. So it's been interesting like trying to parse them and learn about them all. Like you mentioned domain rating earlier. That's been an interesting kind of idea to wrap my head around how, a lot of people want to increase their domain rating, like that are entrepreneurs, because that's kind of what everyone talks about and what companies are marketing. Like, we'll buy you all these backlinks to increase your domain rating, but it's like, is that going to get you any organic traffic? Um, so it's been interesting parsing all the takes, and then the geo stuff in particular has been interesting, and I'm excited to prioritize that more than the next 6 months
Yeah,
because with the traditional SEO stuff, it's pretty clear what I should be building.
yeah,
Like keyword research is like essentially a solved problem. Backlinks, you just show the backlinks. With the geo, um, it seems like there's a lot less definitive answer on how it works. So it's been interesting listening to your podcast, hearing people like running their own experiments to try to understand it more. But it's very interesting, and I think the rate at which things are going to change too, since it's so much easier to write code
yeah.
now, and it's so much easier for Google and ChatGPT to monitor the ways people are taking advantage of their system. I think the cycle is just going to close and close and close. And I think at the end of the day, it's just like, are you doing good marketing? Are you communicating your brand properly?
Yeah.
If you kind of just put blinders on, I think it will work out in the end.
It does seem to be a moment of such wild fluctuations and uncertainty again. It's kind of exciting for me because there was definitely a time where, things felt pretty stale. Everything was a rehash. There was, there'd be an update that came around and rolled in and roiled stuff, and we'd always find something to argue about. Usually around the updates be, oh, SEO is dead, again, the eternal zombie of SEO. But I think it's because we've always, as an industry, as a fledgling industry, I think people forget this. Like this SEO as an industry is completely new in the 2000s. It was barely even a concept in the late 90s, as enough websites drew enough traffic for and got enough businesses. But it's a multi-billion dollar enterprise now, and at the moment where that investment has started to sort of peak, we now have such insane levels of uncertainty. We've never had as little clarity into these data sources for, there's zero data on from Google for us that's accessible on AI overviews, impacts, CTRs, click through rates. It's obfuscated, and then
Mm.
we've gotten small sneaks and peaks. Microsoft Clarity added, a query fan out visualization. Google Bing Webmaster Tools added a small tool, and with some data, but I don't know if it's available through the API or if it's just through the UI right now. Um, and I'm certain that the millionaires and billionaires who are getting to play around right now with ads in ChatGPT are being given some sort of metrics, but us peasants haven't yet seen that, and that's locked under NDA. I haven't seen anybody leak or show even a screenshot of any of the data inside from the people who have signed up for ChatGPT advertising, and probably because they had to sign an NDA and we get sued, or just haven't thought about it. I don't know. If anybody is listening and can steal a screenshot to show us what kind of metrics ChatGPT is serving out to justify spending ad money. I've seen anecdotes of people who've said, "Oh, I've run this and this has been the outcome." But I haven't seen any interface that's shown a data point. And as somebody who worked in the SEO SaaS space, I'm like, where's the data? What does the data look like? Their anecdote of like, oh, it worked, it didn't work is nice, but A, I don't have the access to GPT ads, and B, I don't know when they're going to be releasing it to us. And maybe this is outdated by the time this comes out with the pace of things. Maybe ChatGPT is announcing right now that they're releasing statistics and data, but I highly doubt it. Google and Bing, Microsoft, and the others have so little incentive in this system to show companies real actionable metrics. It's insane. We're marketing in the dark. So the only hedge, the only protection against that is what you suggested, which is pursuing your brand, doing good foundational work for marketing, take the moment and, okay, well, I don't know the impact and the clarity of the attribution. I can just focus on fundamentals, get my brand out there, and hope that some of the data can come along and help support that as much as possible.
Yeah, I I'm really thankful to have entered this SEO industry, because even if I think the job of SEO maybe changes a lot, I think it rewired my brain to think about marketing totally differently.
Oh,
Because in the past, maybe I thought about marketing from a TikTok or posting on LinkedIn or X is how you get customers. Just post whatever you think customers want. But I think the SEO of thinking about what are people searching for, what are people asking, is
yeah.
just so useful as a framework to view how you should be talking about your brand. So I think even if maybe SEO changes a lot, I think that whole framework of looking at things is extremely useful.
And I think there's a heartbeat too. The business intelligence tools out there that kind of look competitively in a market space, how many clients do they have? What's their annual income? How many units are they selling? Is is not as good as that same viewpoint of that marketing of looking at Google Ads API, look at the search volume, and build a cluster of keywords for that industry to show you what's the online demand for this. What is the digital representation of that physical business, and who is the strongest, in terms of total overall rankings, and then estimated traffic based off of what we know about click-through rates, which is not as solid as it used to be, but Advanced Web Rank is doing a pretty good job there. But we can still see data. So I guess I have to walk back the moment of we're totally in the dark. We do have the fundamentals, and as I said to Ann Smarty yesterday, SEO is in the heart. This is SEO, and AI sits behind it and it overlaps it entirely. So everything new about AI is outside of SEO. Everything else, I can't think of an aspect of SEO, very many aspects of SEO that don't impact in one way or another your AI visibility. Keyword choice, your targeting, how you write about things, your technical SEO, your crawlability, your indexation, all of those things, they all matter. They still matter. It's just there's more stuff and it's so murky. So there's so few data points out there, and it's going to be a wild, wild west for a little bit as we kind of have so many people trying to solve this. But smart people are coming up with some interesting solutions, and it's starting to become more clear the more conversations I have with agencies of what their strategy is and how to adapt to the moment. But it certainly is a moment of a big change.
Absolutely.
I'm curious, when it comes to open SEO, what's your thought process around, being selective about the direction of which PRs, and how horizontal that you want that adoption process to be? Because you can always tack on, you know, horizontally another different feature set that tackles another aspect of it versus going deeper in the vertical to kind of hone, within link building, we've got this basic data, but then, you can do the secondary thing and go deeper with it and go deeper and improve, that one particular feature. What's your mindset for the next year in terms of depth versus horizon?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question. I think more horizon. So I actually just posted like a roadmap when I was saying I'm not taking external PRs anymore. I said, here's the roadmap of like how I want to get through this roadmap, which is why I'm not taking external PRs. Um, so that's things like local SEO, improved AI visibility, like prompt tracking, something I really want to add. Uh, and I want to give people just all of the data they need so that Claude can kind of do stuff on their behalf. And then we are so like I want Open SEO to always be the tool that people just getting into SEO for the first time. So like business owners that maybe can't afford to hire an SEO consultant yet, um, their kind of entry point to the world of SEO. So I want to keep the interface simple in that sense, but then also provide more advanced skills and data for agencies and freelancers to kind of uh, be a starting point for them building their own custom workflows. In terms of like going super into depth about, you know, us providing, new SEO insights that's not available anywhere else, we'll probably leave that to other products. Um, and then Open SEO will more be like your source of truth for all data, the place we're storing, your rank tracking, your prompt tracking, kind of the brain for your Claude. And then if you want to pull in other more advanced SEO analysis tools, then you can go to other tools for that.
Absolutely love it. Give a shout out for the site. If you're active on any particular social channels, if people want to learn more about Open SEO or want to sign up and start their own PR or just get connected, what does that look like?
Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn, just Ben Sinescu. And then I'm also on X, also Ben Sinescu. I do talk more about just programming on there than SEO, but I'll maybe start posting more about SEO there as well. But those are the two best places to find me. And then join our Discord. So we're not taking external PRs right now. We probably will in the future. But the best way to contribute is just to write really good issues, which is like just describing how do you want SEO to work, Open SEO to work. So those are still super helpful. And then helping people in the community and asking questions and sharing things you find useful in Discord is also a great way to kind of be involved.
Fantastic. I'll make sure all of that gets linked up on the show notes. I'll also make sure this episode goes up on both Unscripted SaaS and Unscripted SEO. If you want the full transcript, the full recap, screenshots, and what's going on at Open SEO, check out unscriptedseo.com. Thanks for stopping by, Ben.
Thanks so much, Jeremy.